Following the previous chapter, all members of the Yao clan fought with all their might to resist the Soul clan's annihilation. Thunderous explosions echoed continuously throughout the space. With each sound, a Yao clan warrior would self-detonate, igniting their do qi and blowing themselves to pieces. Under such violent energy blasts, even their souls would be completely obliterated. Xiao Yan and his group pushed their speed to the limit, frantically heading towards the area where the most self-detonations occurred. The seal there had already been broken, making it easier to tear open spatial cracks. Behind Xiao Yan, powerful figures from various sects followed closely. They understood that relying solely on their own power, it was impossible to escape in this chaos. However, the Soul clan's goal was to massacre all living beings in the Yao realm. Naturally, they wouldn't allow Xiao Yan and his group to leave so easily. As they moved, swarms of devouring spirit creatures and Soul clan warriors immediately redirected their focus, encircling Xiao Yan and his group from all directions. Seeing the figures closing in from all sides, Xiao Yan's expression turned cold. Just as he was about to act, the Shinong elder behind him threw his herbal staff, unleashing a vast green sea of fire. From the fire sprang countless towering trees wreathed in flames, which ensnared the approaching figures like vines. With the Shinong elder intercepting their pursuers, Xiao Yan breathed a slight sigh of relief and increased his speed, dragging Yao Tian and the others along. Void-swallowing flame, stop Xiao Yan. That boy has a piece of the Tuasha ancient emperor jade. Seeing Xiao Yan and his group rushing across the sky and getting closer to the spatial tear, Han Suzi, who was entangled with Elder Wan Hua and others, urgently shouted, "Himph, do you think I can grow extra arms?" Void-swallowing flame snorted coldly, his voice tinged with displeasure. Hearing this, Han Suzi fell silent, awkwardly smiling. Although void-swallowing flame was the strongest here, he had to stabilize the spatial seal and had been injured by the Pill Emperor's remnant soul in the earlier battle. Additionally, he had transformed into countless devouring spirits, leaving him unable to split his attention further. "Leave it to me. Hunjing, you deal with that old Yao Dan. Does he think he can stop us both by himself? What a joke." In one of the battle zones in the sky, Hun Yan, one of the 4 demon saints of the Soul clan, smiled mockingly at the frenzied Yao Dan before him. His figure flickered and left the battle circle, soaring towards Xiao Yan and his group like an eagle. "Xiao Yan, heh, I'm quite familiar with that name. There are many stories about you in the Soul clan. If not for the clan's plans, I would have sought you out long ago. You're the only one who has repeatedly thwarted us." Hun Yan's speed was terrifying, appearing before Xiao Yan and his group within moments, sneering as he spoke. Seeing yet another formidable foe blocking their path, Xiao Yan's face darkened. Hun Yan's power was overwhelming. Based on his senses, Hun Yan was at least at the late stage of the 7-star Do Sheng level, far stronger than Yao Dan. Flame of life. Behind him, the Shinong elder's expression changed upon seeing Hun Yan, but immediately acted. A vast green sea of fire condensed into a massive 4-hooved beast that charged at Hun Yan. Flame of life. Interesting. After capturing you, that flame will be mine. Hun Yan smiled faintly at the beast's ferocious charge. He clenched his hand, and immense do qi gathered, forming a giant palm that slapped the beast apart. The remaining force of the strike then swept towards Xiao Yan and his group. Flame of life indeed lacks combat power, the Shinong elder sighed bitterly, seeing the limited effect of his attack. He hurriedly increased his speed, trying to evade the descending giant palm. The giant palm came down, and Xiao Yan and his group surged in speed, narrowly avoiding it. However, those behind them weren't as fortunate. The palm grabbed down, crushing even a top-tier Do Sheng among them, reducing their body to a mist of blood. Amidst the screams from behind, Xiao Yan had no time to look back. His eyes were fixed on Hun Yan ahead, who stood exactly at the spot where the spatial seal had been shattered. To tear open a spatial rift there, they had to push this old man back. But driving off a late-stage 7-star Do Sheng was no small feat for Xiao Yan. Northern King. Xiao Yan's eyes flashed as he tossed Yao Tian and the others towards Yao Lao. With a thought, the statue-like Northern King behind him turned into a streak of black light, unleashing a terrifying force towards Hun Yan. Oh, a puppet? Seeing the Northern King's fierce attack, Hun Yan's eyes showed a hint of surprise. Such a powerful and fluidly fighting puppet was rare, even for him. Strong body, but still a puppet. Despite his surprise, Hun Yan didn't retreat. Immense Do Chi surged, and with a wave of his hand, a massive Do Chi hand formed, easily catching the Northern King's fierce attack. The puppet was pushed back, even denting its incredibly hard body. Clearly, the Northern King struggled against a late-stage 7-star Do Shang. Little E. As the Northern King fought desperately to hold off Hun Yan, Xiao Yan's heart called out. Little E quickly rose within him, merging completely with Xiao Yan's soul. As they fused, an overwhelming wave of pure lotus demon flame burst from Xiao Yan, making his body crystalline. Even his bones and organs were covered in a pink crystal layer. In his destruction flame body state, Xiao Yan unleashed his strongest attack, knowing that ordinary strikes were useless against such a formidable opponent. Destruction Fire Lotus. With his flame body formed, Xiao Yan clenched his hand, and 6 different colored heavenly flames swirled together, merging into a 5-colored fire lotus within moments. As the fire lotus formed, waves of destructive energy rippled out. Go! As the fire lotus formed, Xiao Yan's arm shook, and the destruction fire lotus shot out like lightning, exploding near Hun Yan. The cataclysmic explosion filled the sky with destructive flames, creating a storm that obliterated everything within hundreds of meters. Any devouring spirit caught in the storm was reduced to black blood and then evaporated by the intense heat. Hemph, impressive. But if that's your trump card, then hand over the Tuasha Ancient Emperor Jade and I'll grant you a painless death. Despite the destructive firestorm, Hun Yan's cold voice emerged, followed by a surge of black qi that quelled the storm. Hun Yan stepped out from the black qi, his robes flapping in the wind, looking sinister but unharmed. Seeing Hun Yan unscathed, Xiao Yan's expression changed. This was his first time using the Destruction Fire Lotus with his Destruction Flame body, yet it couldn't seriously harm Hun Yan. The late-stage 7-star Do Shang's strength was indeed terrifying. That old man's aura is unstable. Your attack did hurt him, but not enough to seriously injure him, said the Shinnong elder with a grave expression. Xiao Yan, we must escape quickly. If the Yao Clan's warriors are all slaughtered, we won't be able to escape either, Yao Lao said sternly. Xiao Yan nodded silently, his gaze fixed on Hun Yan, who was sneering at them from afar. He took a deep breath and said, Shinnong elder, Yao Tian, lend me your heavenly flames. The Shinnong elder and Yao Tian were stunned but didn't hesitate. The elder handed his herbal staff to Xiao Yan, while Yao Tian hesitated briefly before spitting out a dark brown flame shaped like a tortoise. The tortoise spirit earth flame, ranked 13th on the heavenly flames list. Xiao Yan held the staff in one hand, and the tortoise spirit earth flame in the other. His crystalline body emitted a strange radiance. In this state, he and Little E were fully merged, essentially giving him the physique of a heavenly flame spirit. Even with heavenly flames that hadn't been refined by him, as long as their owners didn't resist, he could use them. However, their power would naturally be weaker than those he had refined. But in such an urgent situation, there was no time to consider these details. Xiao Yan himself already possessed 6 types of heavenly flames. Adding these 2 more would form a fire lotus unprecedentedly composed of 8 heavenly flames. The resulting power would be unimaginably terrifying. The flame of life and the tortoise spirit earth flame quickly transformed into 2 differently colored flames in Xiao Yan's palm. A slight resistance emanated from them. Although their owners did not intentionally resist, there was still a bit of inherent resistance, and this was already mitigated by Xiao Yan's nearly flame spirit physique. If it were an ordinary person holding them, they would have exploded long ago and would not have been so docile. Noticing the slight resistance from the 2 original flames, Xiao Yan frowned slightly. With a flick of his finger, wisps of pink flame extended from his fingertip, enveloping the 2 original flames. Immediately, the surrounding flames stiffened slightly. Even without intelligence, they were intimidated by the pure lotus demon flames' terrifying purifying power, making them unwilling to move. Seeing the two original flames become quiet, Xiao Yan breathed a slight sigh of relief. With a gentle twist of his palm, 6 fire streams once again converged. As the 6 heavenly flames slowly fused, he flicked his finger and shot the flame of life and the tortoise spirit earth flame into the mix. As the 2 flames entered, a low rumbling sound emanated from the previously quiet fire whirlpool. Terrifying energy roared violently within, giving it an explosive tendency. Sensing the changes within the fire whirlpool, Xiao Yan's expression grew serious. Even with the flame spirit physique granted by Little E, he was too unfamiliar with these 2 flames, making fusion difficult. However, this didn't faze Xiao Yan. His soul, at the heavenly realm's great perfection, surged into the fire whirlpool like a tide, immediately calming the violent energy as if pouring a bucket of ice water into boiling water. With the violence subdued, the fire whirlpool condensed once more under Xiao Yan's guidance. Simultaneously, his dou qi poured into the whirlpool like a tide. The addition of the 2 heavenly flames exponentially increased the dou qi consumption, even straining Xiao Yan's current capacity. As more dou qi poured into the fire whirlpool, substantial ripples appeared within. The embryonic form of a lotus flower emerged, exuding an aura that made even Xiao Yan's heart race with fear. A Buddha's furious fire lotus formed from 8 heavenly flames possessed truly earth-shattering power. As the terrifying aura spread, Hun Yin, who was being fiercely delayed by the Northern King, noticed it. His expression changed as he solemnly looked at Xiao Yan. His eyes fixed on the 7-colored whirlpool in Xiao Yan's hand, and he couldn't help but twitch. That power felt dangerous even to him. This boy is indeed extraordinary. He's just a 5-star Do Sheng, but can unleash such a terrifying attack. Cold light flashed in Hun Yan's eyes. With a fierce palm strike on the Northern King's body, the sudden surge of force caved in the Northern King's chest. If not for being a puppet, this blow would have been fatal. Even so, the fierce palm wind sent the Northern King flying hundreds of meters. Hun Yin then moved, flying straight towards Xiao Yan. Stop him! Seeing this, Yao Lao's expression changed instantly. With a low shout, a beam of dou qi shot out, but Hun Yin didn't even glance at it. With a wave of his sleeve, he dispersed it effortlessly. Scarlet poison palm. Seeing the failed interception, the Shinnong elder's face grew serious. He dashed forward, his palm rapidly swelling and turning crimson, emitting a faint phenomenon. He then struck towards Hun Yin with his expanded palm. Facing the Shinnong elder's attack, Hun Yin merely snorted coldly. Flipping his palm, his fingers turned pitch black. He casually swung his hand, meeting the Shinnong elder's scarlet palm. As the 2 forces clashed, a strange fragrance filled the air. The Shinnong elder's face turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood, his body flying back in a disheveled state, clearly at a disadvantage in this exchange. A bunch of weaklings think they can escape from my soul clan? Dream on. Having easily defeated the Shinnong elder, Hun Yin sneered, his figure flashing as he appeared in front of Xiao Yan. His pitch-black fingers, like the fingers of death, grabbed towards Xiao Yan with lightning speed. Xiao Yan's gaze was locked on Hun Yan's claw. In an instant, it reached him, tearing through his dou qi defense and landing heavily on his body. The black fingers tore through, bringing forth a spurt of blood and sparks. Xiao Yan's chest clothing turned to ashes, revealing a layer of sturdy dragon scales. However, these scales now bore 5 deep wounds, with blood continually oozing out. If not for the Dragon Phoenix ancient armor's defense, Xiao Yan would have been gutted. Reeling from the heavy blow, Xiao Yan's face turned pale. Hun Yan's strike sent him flying, but as he was thrown back, a cold smile flashed in Xiao Yan's eyes, and he softly whispered, "Explode." The moment this soft voice was heard, Hun Yan's pupils suddenly contracted. His gaze fixed just centimeters in front of him, where a palm-sized fire lotus slowly rotated. The lotus glowed with a brilliant 8-colored light, breathtakingly beautiful. Seeing the fire lotus so close, Hun Yan's face changed dramatically. Before he could react, a dazzling light burst from the lotus, and countless beams of destructive energy shot out. Anything hit by these beams turned to ash instantly. Luckily, Xiao Yan used Hun Yan's force to fly backward, avoiding being struck by these destructive beams. Hun Yan, at the forefront, was pierced by several beams, but his body didn't turn to ash. Immense dou qi surged from within him, desperately resisting the invading destructive power. However, the fire lotus fused from 8 different heavenly flames was not so easily dealt with. After the beams shot out, waves of destructive energy emanated from the fire lotus. The brilliant light in the sky was like another blazing sun, filling the entire Yao realm with its dazzling brightness. The indescribable destructive shockwaves swept across the sky in all directions. The already ravaged mountains below turned into a scorched land in an instant. The terrifying heat even melted the mountains into liquid. Xiao Yan grabbed Yao Lao and the others, retreating rapidly. The pure lotus demon flame formed a huge protective shield around them, shielding them from the devastating blast. The destructive shockwave lasted for a long while before gradually dissipating. A plume of black smoke fell from the center, crashing heavily into the ground and creating a massive crater. Xiao Yan peered into the distance and could vaguely see Hun Yan wrapped in black qi. However, his aura had weakened significantly compared to before, indicating that he had sustained serious injuries. Besides Xiao Yan, the Shenong elder and others gasped, their eyes filled with shock. It was hard to believe that Xiao Yan had managed to push a late-stage 7-star Do Sheng to such a state. Quickly, the spatial rift has been torn open by the shockwave. Xiao Yan's face was pale, and the pain from his chest wound made his whole body tremble. He flicked his hand, returning the flame of life and the tortoise spirit earth flame to the Shenong elder and Yao Tian, urgently saying, "We need to leave now." His condition was also extremely poor. The 8-colored fire lotus had consumed far more energy than he had anticipated. He could still use it once more, but doing so would leave him extremely weak, and in this perilous situation, a weakened person had little chance of survival. Hearing Xiao Yan's words, the others noticed a several-meter-wide spatial rift at the center of the destructive shockwave. Their spirits lifted. Quickly, Xiao Yan retrieved a jade bottle from his storage ring, hastily pouring its contents onto the wound on his chest. He urged them again, spreading his bone wings and flying towards the spatial rift at lightning speed. This was their best chance to escape. Stop them! Hun Yan, shaky but defiant, rose into the air, roaring with a ferocious expression. He hadn't expected that even with his strength, Xiao Yan could force him into such a miserable state. Realizing that Xiao Yan and his group were about to escape, the remaining strong members of the Yao clan began to self-detonate crazily. The shockwaves from their self-detonations blocked the Soul Clan warriors who tried to stop Xiao Yan and his group. Seeing this, Hun Jing, who was fighting Yao Dan, grew grim. He hadn't expected that Xiao Yan could even repel Hun Yan. Just as he intended to break away and intercept them, Yao Dan, realizing his plan, grinned with a crazed and feral smile. The dou qi in his body surged violently. "Xiao Yan, thank you." As the dou qi within him reached its peak, Yao Dan turned his head, watching Xiao Yan, who was dragging Yao Tian, Yao Ling, and others into the spatial rift. In his blood-red, crazed eyes, there was a relieved smile. Then, a blast as powerful as the 8-colored fire lotus exploded once again in this blood-soaked space. The terrifying destructive storm swept through the Yao realm. Those caught in the aftermath, except for a few extremely powerful individuals, were turned to ashes instantly. The self-detonation of a 7-star Do Sheng was indeed a true cataclysmic event. This old madman. Faced with the spreading destructive storm, the Soul Clan warriors who intended to intercept Xiao Yan had to retreat. Even powerful figures like Hun Jing and Hun Yan could only spin around and retreat rapidly. The storm raged on for several minutes before gradually dissipating. As the destructive waves faded, the ground revealed a massive crater stretching tens of thousands of feet across, its bottom pitch black and seemingly endless. The sheer destructive power left Hun Yan and the others with their pupils contracting in shock. As the storm cleared, Hun Jing and Hun Yan's gazes immediately turned to where Xiao Yan and the others had fled. They saw only a slowly closing spatial rift, with no sign of Xiao Yan and his group. Clearly, they had escaped through the rift. Damn it! Seeing this, Hun Jing's face turned grim, and he cursed under his breath. Suddenly, he reached out towards where Yao Dan had self-detonated. A beam of light flew into his hand, forming into an ancient jade identical to the one Xiao Yan held. This must be the piece of Tuasha ancient emperor jade held by the Yao clan. How did that brat manage to escape? Hun Suzi appeared beside Hun Jing, his face dark. He had just finished killing Elder Wan Hua and the others. Despite being a 7-star doshang, they had little chance against him. Hun Jing clutched the ancient jade and lifted his gaze towards the disheveled Hun Yan. The latter's face was a mix of blue and white, clearly not expecting to be made so miserable even after personally intervening. That boy indeed has some skills. No wonder he has repeatedly thwarted our Soul Clan, Hun Yan said grimly, not shirking responsibility. The destructive power Xiao Yan unleashed earlier would be formidable even for an ordinary 7-star doshang. Given their intelligence, they hadn't expected Xiao Yan to possess such power, so suffering losses was not entirely unexpected. We can't let them escape. Though we no longer fear news reaching the Gu clan, the boy still has a piece of Tuasha ancient emperor jade. If we get it, it will save us trouble in the future, Hun Suzi said, frowning. He still held a grudge against Xiao Yan for his earlier trickery during the alchemy battle and didn't want to see him escape. First, let's finish our business with the Yao clan. Our task is to collect their bloodline power. As for Xiao Yan and his group, they won't escape easily. Hun Sha and Hun Tu are stationed outside the Yao realm space. Send a message to have one of them intercept and kill Xiao Yan. Hun Yan said coldly. If they weren't helping Lord Void's swallowing flame stabilize the space seal, that boy couldn't have torn open the spatial rift to escape. Agreed, Hun Jing nodded, glancing at the blood-soaked space. A cruel smile flashed across his face as he said, with the Yao clan's bloodline power, our Soul Clan can extend its longevity by another 1,000 years. Once our plan succeeds, the clan leader will become the first supreme Do-Di in thousands of years. Then, the entire Do-Chi continent will be under our Soul Clan's rule, and even the Gu clan will bow to us. This day could have come much sooner if not for the Xiao clan's interference. The campaign against the Xiao clan cost us dearly. Although we finally killed Xiao Xin, the clan leader was severely injured by his dying counterattack and has only now recovered after all these years. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to be so wary of the Gu clan, Hun Suzi said bitterly. Exterminating the Xiao clan was worth it. They were too formidable. If they had allied with the Gu clan, they could have posed a real threat to us. Xiao Xin was feared even by our clan leader at his peak. Such enemies must be eliminated, Hun Jing said solemnly. Mentioning that name brought a flash of fear to his eyes, as he recalled the earth-shattering, fierce battle of the past. Hun Yan took out a pill and swallowed it, then looked coldly at the remaining battles below, letting out a sinister smile. Begin collecting the bloodline power. With these bloodlines, the clan leader might be able to advance further. Then, it will be time for our Soul Clan to act decisively. About a few hundred miles away from the Shenong mountain range, a space suddenly distorted. A spatial rift appeared, and several somewhat battered figures continuously emerged from it. As they landed on the mountain peak, they finally sighed in relief, having escaped from that deadly trap. Are you all right? Yao Lao wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Escaping from the Soul Clan's blockade was nothing short of a miracle. His gaze quickly turned to Xiao Yan, and seeing the wound on Xiao Yan's chest, his expression changed slightly. I'm okay. Xiao Yan gritted his teeth, wiping his hand over the wound. Wisps of pink flame invaded the wound, and immediately, white mist rose as the pure lotus demon flame expelled the black qi from the wound. After neutralizing the corrosive energy within the wound, Xiao Yan sighed in relief, put a pill into his mouth, and began to recover. He then turned to look at the tranquil mountain range behind them. No one would have guessed that within that space, it was now a bloodbath with corpses strewn everywhere. Beside him, the dozen or so young Yao clan members whom Xiao Yan had rescued knelt towards the direction of the mountain range with sorrowful faces. Some of the young women even wept softly, feeling helpless and desperate for the first time, having always lived under the Yao clan's protection. Compared to others, Yao Tian and Yao Ling appeared somewhat calmer. Though their eyes were filled with endless sadness, they didn't show it on the surface. Both seemed to have matured significantly after the upheaval. Mr. Xiao Yan, we can never repay your great kindness. If given the chance, I, Yao Tian, will repay you with my life. Yao Tian turned and bowed deeply to Xiao Yan. Beside him, Yao Ling also bowed gracefully, her beautiful eyes fixed on Xiao Yan. Live well. No need for repayment. If it weren't for those Yao Clan seniors fighting with their lives, none of us would have escaped. Xiao Yan waved his hand. He sympathized with Yao Tian and the others. From today onward, Yao Tian would no longer be the brightest star of the Yao Clan. He would have to rely on his own strength, and whether he could revive his clan would depend on his own abilities. What should we do next? Yao Lao sighed lightly. The Soul Clan's actions are too brutal. Many elders and leaders from Central Plains sects were killed. When this news spreads, the Soul Clan will undoubtedly become the target of all. However, to the Soul Clan, these sects are like ants, unworthy of attention. Xiao Yan pondered for a moment, then said, I must go to the Gu Clan. Currently, the only force that can contend with the Soul Clan is the Gu Clan. They won't stand idly by in the face of such events. We must also unite with the Yin Clan and Lei Clan to check the Soul Clan. Otherwise, the other ancient clans will also face calamity. Given how easily the Soul Clan eradicated the Yao Clan, the Yin Clan and Lei Clan would likely suffer the same fate. As for the Sky Mansion Alliance, the outcome would be even more tragic. In terms of foundation, the alliance still lagged behind these ancient clans. Xiao Yan didn't believe the Soul Clan would spare the Sky Mansion Alliance, so he had to act quickly. Otherwise, the alliance would face the same dire fate. Teacher, you should return to the alliance first. Arrange for the highest level of defense, and secretly relocate those who need to be moved. Make sure everyone is on high alert. Hearing this, Yao Lao hesitated for a moment before finally nodding. With his strength, staying by Xiao Yan's side wouldn't be much help and might even slow him down. The Shinong mountain range is no longer safe. I will go with you to the Sky Mansion Alliance. I've heard that the old monster from the Pill Tower is there too. I haven't seen him in years and would like to catch up, the Shinong elder said after a brief hesitation. The Soul Clan was also after him, and being alone would be dangerous if they tracked him down. Hearing this, Xiao Yan was initially taken aback, but then overjoyed. The Shenong elder was not only a 6-star Do Shang, but also an exceptional alchemist. His presence would significantly boost the alliance's strength, which was a welcome prospect. Yao Tian, you and your sister will come with me to the Gu Clan. Your testimony about the Yao Clan's fate will help convince the elders of the Gu Clan. As for the others, they can stay at the Sky Mansion Alliance for now. Is that acceptable? Xiao Yan turned to Yao Tian and Yao Ling. We will follow Mr. Xiao Yan's instructions. Yao Tian and Yao Ling exchanged a glance and both nodded. Although they were close in age to Xiao Yan, they recognized the vast difference in their abilities compared to him. In that case, let's move out. Xiao Yan exhaled lightly, his internal injuries having healed considerably. Just as he finished speaking, his expression suddenly changed. He turned abruptly, his gaze fixed on a nearby mountain peak. There, leaning against a giant tree, was a figure with a dark red ghost-headed saber slung over his shoulder. His blood-red eyes seemed like a sea of blood. Noticed me, have you? Sensing Xiao Yan's gaze, the figure's face twisted into a sinister grin, and a terrifying aura of bloodthirstiness surged around him.